As always, it's the biggest tech release of the year. Apple's latest smartphone, the iPhone 7, has hit the shelves. And as always, huge queues formed on launch day and it's sold out over its first weekend. So if you're one of the lucky millions who now owns one of these, you want to know how to use it, and this is the only guide you will ever need. More than 100 iPhone 7 and iOS 10 tips and tricks split into 6 sections to help you get the best out of your tech. Like the video if you enjoy it, subscribe to the channel if you love it, and share it if you think your friends need to see it. Right then, let's get this started. I'm Rob Wilson, you're watching the Video Gadgets Journal, and this is the ultimate guide to your iPhone 7 in 30 minutes. We will start with the riskiest tip to test, and that is that the iPhone 7 is dust and water resistant. It's rated to IP67 standard, which means that you should be able to submerge it in 1 meter of water for up to 30 minutes without any issues being caused. In this test, I submerged my iPhone in a bowl of water for an entire minute. I couldn't control the phone while it was in the water, but once I took it out, everything seemed fine. And just as a disclaimer, like me, you test this at your own risk. The iPhone 7 has a raise to wake feature, whereby you lift up the phone, look at it, and it will display the lock screen. In order to turn this feature off, you can go to Settings, scroll down to Display and Brightness, and toggle on or off the raise to wake option. When you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, you get the control center, and you have different functions such as turning on the flashlight. However, there are more features embedded into the flashlight now. If you do a 3D touch, which is a harder press on screen, you will see more options to change the brightness level. So you can switch it up to a bright level, or you can switch it down to a low light flash torch. As well as extra settings on the flashlight, you can also 3D touch on the timer to set up a quick timer, whether it be 1 hour, 20 minutes, 5 minutes or a minute. And if you 3D touch on the calculator, you'll be able to copy the last sum that was worked out. And also on the camera, if you 3D touch, you can take a photo, record slow-mo, take a selfie, and so on. And one more feature on the new control center, you can swipe to the left to bring up more options depending on what apps you're currently using. You can now switch applications by doing a 3D touch on the left side of the screen, and you will start to see your apps on the left hand side. If you swipe all the way to the right, that will automatically switch to the next application. If you do a half swipe, then that will show you your multitasking apps where you can switch quickly to any app that's currently in memory. Notifications has received a bit of an overhaul, and Apple have realised that you may have hundreds of notifications. So in order to quickly delete them all, you can 3D touch on the cross in the top right hand corner to then clear all notifications all at once. Easy done. Whenever you receive a notification, you can also 3D touch it to see if you have more options. For example, if I 3D touch the YouTube option, it allows me to take me to the settings for YouTube. As for a message, if I 3D touch that, it automatically takes me to the message so I can respond to it. When you are on your notifications, if you swipe right, you can look at your application widgets. To edit these widgets, you can scroll down to the bottom, tap the edit button, and from here you can remove a widget or reorder it if you wish. Make sure you press done once you've finished. In addition to this, if you want to quickly add a widget to that screen, you can 3D touch on the application, and if it does have a widget, you'll have the option in the top right hand box here to tap and add the widget. Then when you return to your notifications, scroll right to see the widgets. That should put the new widget on screen. If you would prefer your notifications not to show any content when the screen is locked, you can do this by going to Settings, then Notifications, and then for the particular app that you want to hide content, such as messages, you can scroll down to the bottom and untick the Show Previews toggle. Now when a lock screen is on, it will tell you nothing about the content of a message and simply say where it comes from. Home screen folders now have 3D touch options as well. For example, in this folder at the top, we have a 3 unread counter, that's the emails, and it means that I can 3D touch on the folder to jump automatically to those unread emails, or rename the folder if I want to. If you want, you can put a floating button on your screen to help you navigate around your device. In order to do this, go to Settings, and then in General, tap on Accessibility, and scroll down to Assisted Touch. On here, if you toggle it on, you'll now see a floating white button which you can drag around the screen and place it anywhere you want, and when you tap on it, it will give you different options such as opening up the notification center or going to your control center. One extra feature that has been built into the Assistive Touch is if you 3D touch on the button while it's in an application, it acts as a on-screen home button. The clock app now has a new feature called bedtime, which is supposed to help you go to bed at the right time and wake up when you want to. There are a few steps you need to go through by telling the application what time you want to wake up, when you want it to wake up, so essentially alarms on different days, how many hours of sleep you would like, and how much of a reminder you want before you need to go to bed. I'm sure this is available in different apps, but Apple has decided to integrate it into its clock application. You can turn your iPhone 7 into a magnifier if you want to. To do this, go to Settings, then General, Accessibility, and the magnifier option. Make sure you toggle it on, and once it is on, if you triple tap the home button, that will launch the magnifier, where you can then zoom in and out of a object if you want to. While the default triple click of a home button will bring up the magnifier, you can add more options to this by going to Settings, General, Accessibility, and scrolling all the way down to the bottom where it says Accessibility Shortcut. Tap on that and let's add Assistive Touch. Now when I triple click the home button, you will get two options to use whichever feature you want. Stocks. Who uses the Stocks application? The answer is probably not many of us, and previously you weren't able to delete this application. Well, the good news is now you can. Like any other application on your home screen, you can delete it by tapping on the cross button to get rid of it. And if you want to get it back, you can simply go to the App Store to reinstall it. Although there is a question over whether it actually deletes the application, as it has been proven that even if you're disconnected from the Wi-Fi, it will automatically add it back to your home screen. So maybe it just hides it, but ultimately it's good that you can now get rid of these useless applications off your home screen. You can launch a spotlight within applications now, but you have to be very careful. Swipe down from the top of the screen until it vibrates and then let go, and you can see the spotlight search. If you don't get it right, you'll end up just showing notifications as normal. There's a new contextual lookup feature now, which is similar to Google Now. So if you select some text, you can tap the lookup button and it will give you information on the word you just searched for. Another addition to the Notes application is this plus button at the top here, which allows you to collaborate with people on Notes. When you press it, it will ask you how you want to share your notes, so I can tap on messaging and send my notes to somebody else so that we can collaborate on them. The health section now has been beefed up into 4 different categories that include activities, mindfulness, nutrition and sleep. Obviously this does depend on whether you're using an Apple Watch and how much effort you want to put into adding all your information to the health app, but if you just leave it, the activity area will show you how many steps you've done, flights climbed and walking distance. While the iPhone 7 has controversially lost its headphone jack, it has gained stereo speakers, and you can adjust the setting of those by going into Settings, General, Accessibility, and if you scroll down until you see the hearing options, you can turn on or off the mono audio, and if you have stereo speakers turned on, you can adjust the left and right balance. The base model of iPhone 7s now start at 32 gig instead of 16 gig, which is brilliant. However, you can save yourself another 2.5 gig right off the bat by checking how much each of your applications takes up that's pre-installed on your device. And a quick glance into storage shows you that GarageBand takes up 1.5 gigs, iMovie takes up 600 meg, and Keynote takes up another 600 meg. So if you're not going to use those applications, you might as well delete them straight away. By default, on the lock screen, if you swipe up, you can see the control center. But if you want to turn this feature off, you can go to Settings, then Control Center, and you have access to lock screen toggle here, which you can turn on or off. And you can also do the same thing with applications if you don't want a control center popping up by accident when you're playing a game, for example. The home button on the iPhone 7 no longer clicks by itself. It actually reacts to a haptic feedback engine in a device, and you can adjust how the vibration works by going to Settings, General, and then tapping on the home button, and you have 3 different vibration types. So you may know that if you try and press the home button when the device is off, nothing happens. But then when you have one of these 3 different options on, it vibrates in a slightly different way. Kind of a little weird, but you soon get used to it. You may have noticed since the iOS 10 update that you can't just rest your finger on your home button to unlock it, but you can set it back to that system option by going to Settings, then General, Accessibility, and scrolling down to Home Button. And there is an option here for Rest Finger to Open. So now, when you simply unlock your device by resting your finger on the home button, you can also change the home button double click speed here as well, from default slow to slowest, if you need extra time to do the double or triple click for the options. Now, as I've been talking about 3D Touch so much, it might be a good idea to show you where the settings are for this, and it is in General, Accessibility, scroll down a little bit to 3D Touch, and here you can decide whether you want to use 3D Touch, but more importantly, the touch sensitivity, which you can slide on here and test down at the bottom. When you first switched on your iPhone 7, you will have set up at least 1 fingerprint, but you can set up more by going to Settings and then Touch ID and Passcode. You will need to put in your passcode at this point. And then you can look at your fingerprints. You can set up more than 1 fingerprint. For example, you may want to use your right thumb, your left thumb, and one of your index fingers, and perhaps maybe an index finger of somebody you trust, for example, your partner. So in this example, I'm going to set up my left index finger. That means you can unlock your device with multiple fingers, so it's easy to do. Your iPhone 7 lock screen can give you limited access, such as viewing notifications or certain functions like Siri. In order to modify these, you can go to Settings, scroll down to Touch ID and Passcode, type in your passcode for your device, and then scroll down to the bottom of the screen, and you'll see an options where it says Allow Access when locked, and you can toggle each of these options on or off, whether it's the notifications using Siri or replying to a message. If you are letting someone else use your iPhone 7, you may want to restrict use, such as the camera, browser, or certain actions. To do this, go to Settings, then General, then scroll down to Restrictions, and here you need to enable restrictions by setting up an independent passcode. In this one, I'm going to set up a very simple passcode. Once you've done that, you can turn off things like Safari, the camera, Siri, and so on. If you want to disable certain other actions, such as installing applications and in-app purchases, you can also do it from this screen. Obviously, to turn them on again, you'll have to go into Restrictions and put in your passcode once again. Siri has been opened up to third-party applications, but you need to enable it first, and to do this, you need to go to Settings, tap on Siri from the main settings screen, and then scroll down to App Support, and any applications installed on your device that need Siri can be toggled on or off here. There are a couple of options to help you save some battery on your iPhone 7, and they're all accessed through Settings and scrolling down to Battery. The first and most obvious one is low battery mode, which you can turn on at any time, and that will restrict certain things such as checking email, using Siri, and reduce visual effects. Independent of that, you can use the battery percentage to give you an entirely accurate readout of your battery to the percentage, and it also gives you battery life suggestions. For example, I have brightness on full at the moment, so it's suggesting that I should turn my brightness down a little bit. As for battery usage, some interesting information here, giving you percentage usage either in the last 24 hours, or it can go up to the last 3 days and a week, and you can press on the clock button on the right hand side to give you an actual breakdown of your on-screen time of different apps. So if you know now if anything is running far too much battery, you can look at the screen and reduce your usage of it through this assistance. If you're more interested in playback performance rather than quality on videos, you can adjust that in the settings and scrolling down to videos, and on the Wi-Fi playback quality you can choose best available or good to ensure that the video is a lower quality but you get the best performance. The integrated Apple email app now includes an unread filter, which is handy in the bottom left hand corner. So if you tap that, it will quickly show you which emails you've yet to read. While the default filter is unread, you can tap at the bottom here to change the filter if you want to into something else and filter by different options. Another useful feature introduced by the mailing app is the unsubscribe button at the top of emails. Whenever an email is detected as being from a mailing list and has an unsubscribe link in it, usually at the bottom, the mailing app puts an additional unsubscribe link at the very top of your email, front and center, just in case you want to unsubscribe from the mailing list. When you're on the main contacts page, you can 3D touch a person to get a snapshot of potential contact methods, and if you tap on a person's name, it shows you the new contact card. If you want Siri to tell you who is calling, you can go to Settings, scroll down to the phone application, then tap on Announce Calls, and from here you can select whether Siri should tell you who is calling. It's probably most useful when you're cycling or driving in the car, where you can turn it on to headphones only or headphones in car. When you are typing a message on the keyboard, you can do a 3D touch long press on it, and it turns it into a trackpad, which means it's easier to move the cursor around and place it where you want to make quick edits to your message. On the keyboard, you can 3D touch the delete button now to delete faster. So I'll start this test by deleting slowly and then pressing harder to delete faster. When you're typing a message, you can tilt your device to landscape to get a bigger keyboard. And also in the bottom right hand corner, you have this new scribble option where you can simply etch out a message. If you keep it in that mode, by pressing done and tilting it to portrait, you get the keyboard back, but when you tilt it back to landscape, it goes to scribble mode. You can do some very funky effects with messaging if you do a 3D touch next to your message to bring up the effects screen. The first options are in the text bubble. You can change it to a slam, loud, gentle effect, or indeed make it an invisible message. You can also send effects, so if you type in another message, 3D touch, go to screen, you can send it with, for example, some confetti. You can also send stickers to people on messaging now. In order to do this, tap on the arrow next to your message, then tap on what looks to be an App Store button. In the bottom left hand corner we have 4 dots, and then you have the option to add either images, music or stickers. You can add more stickers by tapping on the plus button, which takes you to a mini messaging store where you can choose certain things, including games as well, but stickers is the one we're looking at, and we can go to gaming and then find some stickers from a game. Once we've added that, when we go back to our messaging and select one of the stickies, such as Mario Run, we can drop it into the message and that will send a message to your messaging partner. Another thing that messaging can do is automatically change your words to emojis. So if you put in emoji words and then tap on the emoji button, if they turn into an orange word, you can tap on it to change it to that emoji. A very quick conversion and very useful for when you want to send fun messages. If you have a predictive text on, you should also start to see predictive emojis. For example, if I type in "I like pizza," one of the predictive options should be a pizza emoji, which will appear in the right corner, and you can just tap that to quickly change your word to an emoji. Your device will also try to predict certain messages. For example, this one says "see you at 6 p.m. tomorrow," and this is underlined because it thinks it may be able to turn this into an event. So if I tap on it, it gives me options to show in calendar and create event. Photos is much easier and more implemented in messaging now. If you tap on the camera, it will give you a small preview of what you might be taking on your camera, and you can swipe to the left to quickly choose a picture. If you swipe to the right, you can launch the full camera application or the full photo library to share your pictures. Messaging also allows you to make immediate changes to pictures that you've taken. So if I go to the camera application in Messages, take a picture, it will display in my messages before sending. I can tap on the picture itself, and then there is a small markup button here, which then allows me to do quick doodles on the picture if I want to before sending it. You can directly react to certain messages if you want to by long pressing. That's not 3D touch, just a long press. Then you'll get the options to like it, thumbs down and whatnot, and at the bottom you can choose more options which include deleting it if you want to. If you want to hide the fact that you read an individual's message, you can go to a person's messaging Tap on the info button in the top right and then toggle on or off send read receipts. If you're exchanging a lot of messages between each other that involve pictures, you can save yourself a little bit of data by going to settings, scrolling down to messages, and at the very bottom of this screen there is an option to toggle on low quality image mode so that you will save a bit of data when you send messages to each other. To access the camera directly from the lock screen, you simply have to swipe to the left. Not so much of a tip this one, but it is a new feature for the smaller iPhone 7. It now includes optical image stabilization, much like its 7 Plus brother, although there is no way to turn it off in these settings as far as I'm aware. You can now use Siri to search through your photos. Here are a couple of examples. Hey Siri, show me photos from yesterday. Hey Siri, show me photos from Vancouver. Hey Siri, show me photos of dogs. One of the most interesting new features of the Photos section of your iPhone is Memories, which will automatically collect pictures from, say, the last week or the last month or places you visited and put them into a slideshow without you having to do anything. So, for example, if we look at this slideshow, which is from Lacona in the US, it automatically generates a movie with some music and goes through the pictures. You can change the music from different styles and increase or decrease the length of the film, and it's a nice new feature that's been added. You can now edit live pictures after you've taken them. When you go to your photo gallery and choose the edit option, you will see a toggle here in either the bottom left hand corner or the top left hand corner, and if you edit with this button in blue, you're editing the live photo. If you toggle it off, then you're just editing the picture. The settings for your camera aren't actually found in the camera application. Instead, you need to go to settings and scroll down to photos and camera, and on here, if you scroll down, you have a couple of options which include turning a grid on for your camera and also changing the recording quality, for example up to 4K for video recording and slow-mo in either 1080p at 120 frames a second or 720p at 240 frames a second. When it comes to customizing the look of your iPhone, you're not exactly blessed with options, but there are a couple, and you can access them by going to Settings, then General and Accessibility. Here you have the option to make your font larger, for example, by using this slider. Another option is to turn some of the buttons a different shape. You've also got the option to increase the contrast by reducing transparency and darkening colours, although it's very difficult to tell the difference in the naked eye. There's also reduced motion, which takes out some of the parallax scrolling effects and different motions. And this one here is actually one of my favourites. You can turn on a little on-off button on your toggles just to make it clearer when something is on or off. There's also a couple more visual options in display accommodations where you can invert the colours to make things look really quite crazy, and colour filters. Obviously this is designed for people who may have eyesight issues, and you can change the colour scheme, for example. But if you can have a play of it and see if there's anything you quite like from any of these features. And if you've ever wanted to make your screen completely dark while it's still on, you can reduce the white point to 100% and then use the control panel to reduce the brightness from full down to dark. And now I can't even control my screen because I can't see anything. So it might be difficult to get the brightness back up. This could take a while. Although this is not officially supported by Apple, there is a way to directly screen record your iPhone 7 if you want to. You need to point your Safari browser to savagepool.com, and here you'll have an option to get AirShow, which is a screen recorder. So tap on that and then tap the install button and wait for it to install onto your home screen. Once it's finished downloading, if you try and launch it, it will say that it's an untrusted enterprise developer. In order to fix this, go to Settings, then General, and scroll down to a new option that's called Device Management. Here you will see an enterprise app. Tap on the name, whatever it is, it can change from China Pacific Insurance. tap the blue trust button and then the red trust from the pop-up, and that should enable you to launch the application. Now, in order to use this application, you tap on record, set up your orientation, then your resolution, next step, and you have to swipe up from the bottom of the screen to get your control center, tap AirPlay mirroring, and you should see your own device, and tap there. And once you've completed all these steps, you should see the blue bar at the top and a little AirPlay symbol, and that means that you are now directly recording your screen. There's a lot more information about this on my other videos on AirShow, so click on screen now to find out more. Safari now allows you to have unlimited tabs in your browser, and if you want to get rid of them all very quickly, you can long press on the tab button in the bottom right hand corner to close all your tabs all at once. Safari now supports inline video playing, which means that you don't have to play a video in full screen. This is what it looks like full screen, but then I can minimize the video and it still plays while I can read the rest of the article. You have a lot more dictionary options to choose from now. You can go to Settings, then choose General, scroll down to the Dictionary option, and here you can select from all sorts of different languages. When you're downloading applications from the App Store, you have certain options available to you now. For example, I'm downloading Oz Broken Kingdom, and you can see it on my home screen here. If I 3D touch on it, it gives me the option to pause the download, cancel it, or share it with another person. So in this case, I'm going to cancel it because it's a 1.4 gigabyte download and I don't want that on my phone. There's a new option now on settings when you 3D touch it, and that is to jump directly to cellular data. If you're using Apple Maps, if you zoom into a city, it will give you a very brief weather report in the bottom right hand corner. Using Apple Maps now, you can set a preferred method of transport by going to Settings, scrolling down to Maps, and then you had three options at the top: preferred transport type, driving, walking, or transit. And if your preferred method of transport is driving, you might want to avoid paying tolls, and Apple Maps can do this for you by tapping on driving and navigation and toggling on the avoid tolls. If you have a terrible short-term memory and can't remember where you've parked your car, then your iPhone may be able to help you out. If you go to Maps, one of the options now is to show parked location. What needs to happen here is if your phone is connected to your car through Bluetooth, once it disconnects, then it should be able to remember where you parked your car. So if you're in a multi-story car park and you can't remember which level you're on, then this might be able to help you. Although if it's a multi-story car park, then you could be in the right place but the wrong level, so I'm talking gibberish. Anyway, this might be able to help you a little bit with where you've parked. As well as having a new dark theme for the clock, the stopwatch also has a new analog version of itself. If you just swipe left to see it and watch your timer start ticking. And now for one final funky feature. Remember I told you earlier on that if you triple tap the home button, you can launch a magnifier. Well, if you don't want to use the magnifier by default, you can change that. Go to Settings, General, then Accessibility, and turn off the magnifier. Then you need to scroll down to the bottom to go to your accessibility shortcut, and because the magnifier is no longer the default, you can choose something else instead. Now what I'm going to show you at this point is how to adjust your brightness with a triple click, but it requires a few steps before this. So if we go back to accessibility, then on to the zoom option, enable zoom, then scroll down to the zoom filter and set it to low light, then back a step, and then region you want full screen. So that's going to dim the entire screen. So if I just turn it off and then turn it back on, that automatically dims the screen by about 25%. So if you go down again to accessibility shortcut and then turn zoom on as your triple click action, what should now happen is when I triple click the home button, that turns off the zoom low light option, but then if I triple click again, that automatically turns it back on. So it's a quick way to shift your brightness if you want to in an emergency. And that's your comprehensive guide to the iPhone 7. Now obviously I can't fit every single tip into this guide, so if you think I've missed something important, let me know in the comments below. And if you're a fan of a rival device such as the Samsung Galaxy S7, well, I've given that device exactly the same treatment. 100 plus tips to help you get the best out of an Android device. So if you want to watch more on that, click on screen now. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching and enjoy the rest of your tech day. Bye for now.